and harassment all at the same time.
At the same.
At the same time. Yes. Yeah. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Friday Sip and Chat. We are coming to you just Doc and I. Like, look at that. Like, it's Doc and I. We gonna hold it down. Hold it down, hold it down. And so, as we always do, good evening. And, where you checking in from, let us know. And if you're sipping, you can let us know what you're sipping. We have PG-13 lemonade. Doc, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm all right. I am sipping on a couple of things tonight. I have my water because I'm doing the water challenge.
Okay.
Yes,
What's
yes.
the water challenge?
Uh, it is with my. I was going to say old workout team, but I still follow them.
Mm-hmm.
So my personal trainer friends Tracy and Shani with next
Okay.
level.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. I
so
saw
they have
that
the
thing.
water challenge, and they want you to drink 5 bottles of water a day. I forget the number, but I have my big bottle, which is 50 ounces. So I'm doing
Okay.
two of those.
Okay.
I'm on my second bottle,
Okay.
doing that little challenge, and I am also drinking some golden milk because I added something new to my workout routine. And when you switch it up, you start to feel that soreness. So
Right.
I'm drinking my golden milk for the inflammation, reduce my soreness. So
Got
that's
you.
where I'm at tonight.
Got you. Got you.
Mhm.
Yes, I still follow them as well. And I did see that water challenge, but I forgot about it. I guess because I drink water all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I forgot about it. So much, when you scrolling,
Mhm.
you take
I
in
drink
so much.
water more than I used to, but
Mhm.
still, you don't realize you're not drinking enough. You have a glass of water with
Mhm.
something or a bottle with something, and you think that's enough, but it really isn't.
It really isn't. I know that I'm at at least the 32 ounces
Okay.
per day.
Okay.
But I probably could do some more.
Hmm.
I could probably do more. But I don't really drink anything that has sugar in it except for when I have my lemonade or when I have my
Okay.
tea.
Okay.
So
Me
um,
too.
and my coffee doesn't have sugar in it technically.
Okay.
And the reason I say technically because I know it's sugar in the creamer, but
Ah, yes,
yeah,
yes. And I've gotten used to drinking my tea without sweetener.
same here.
Hmm.
Same here. Same here. In fact, I mean it's been so long since I've had a soda. Um that
Yes.
when oh God, I was gonna go by my birthdays, but that'd be telling way too much information. When I stopped drinking soda and then I decided to taste a soda, I
Icky
was
sweet,
like
right?
instantly, I was like, what in the world is this? And why was I such a fan
Hmm.
of this soda?
Hmm. Hmm.
But we live and we learn. We live
Yes,
and
yes,
learn.
we do. Yes, we do.
And so this week's discussion flow is actually a part two. Last week we talked about harassment in the workplace, and we talked about it from like a larger global situation, especially since it was the first week of Black History Month,
Hmm.
and the world was reeling. Like we had a HBCU bombing, we had Whoopi Goldberg being suspended for her interpretation on the show called The View. She couldn't share her point of view.
Right.
Simply. And then we experienced the I guess the awareness around the Rooney Rule with the NFL and why it's only one African American
Mm.
head coach. So we talked about just different elements of harassment from that larger scale. So this week we're taking a look at some of the transactions of harassment in the
Hmm.
workplace. Like from a day-to-day experience, the power dynamics, the gender biases, is your yes your yes, is your no your no. Um how is it, between black women to black women in leadership? Um men as well, just different stuff. So we're gonna dive in and we're gonna, try to work not try. We're gonna work this out with you all. And
Mm.
we welcome all feedback and comments that you have. So Doc, how would you want to
I mean, we started talking in the green room about how this might look, and I was telling Mary that I haven't had a lot of experience with other people, well, with other races discriminating against me outwardly.
mm-hmm,
Haven't had that happen, but I've had I have to say, a lot of
mm-hmm.
discrimination from black women.
Right.
You know,
Which is so weird and like odd. Well, you would
you would
think, no, let me take it back. You would
think,
think
you would think.
that that's weird and odd, but we both co-signed in the green room that, yeah, it's real.
It is really real, and because there's not really a place to classify, if you will, that this is harassment.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, it's difficult to talk about,
Right, because
especially
where's the safe
in the
place?
workplace when it's happening,
Mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm,
it wouldn't it's not the same as if a man said something out of the way to me, or a white woman said,
mm-hmm.
or a white man said something to me out of the way. This is another black person. So how do you even complain about that? How do you even address it where it doesn't look like, oh, cat fight, rah, rah.
Right. Right. Or can't y'all just handle that at the lunch table?
Uh-huh.
Or can't y'all just like rush that under the rug? Because that's something that we don't understand. That's black woman stuff. How we doing with the project? Like they'll shift the conversation because of not being comfortable.
Mhm.
However, that power dynamic, and I'm not really trying to leave the power dynamic between the black woman and the two black women, but on the reverse of another ethnic group being in that power role, then it gets into fragility conversations, or that the black woman is aggressive and angry and
Mhm.
and coming at the individual. I mean, first of all, it's nobody coming at nobody,
Right.
but it's that perception and that belief that if you express your opinion with passion and compassion, that one of you is wrong, which
Mhm.
still is the dynamic between black and black.
And now that we're talking about this, I did have an experience where I was being classified that way, and the person said that they felt,
Well,
the
be clear
word,
on what's the that way, because everybody's that way is
well,
different.
classified as the aggressor,
Hmm.
and the person felt, let's all say it together, because we know what it is.
Attacked
I felt attacked and intimidated.
and intimidated. Ah,
Yes, yes.
because how dare you attack and intimidate me on? We were just having a conversation. When did it shift gears? I'm so uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Like, why would you say that about me? I really um like you, Mary. Oh, now I'm Mary. Oh,
Hmm.
oh no, Miss May. That's it.
Yes, yes. And that can happen when your opinion is different,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
or like you said, you express yourself with some passion,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't let someone just say and do anything to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or if you get quiet,
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
things have transpired as a transaction so many times over and over, you already feel exhausted by what it is that you feel and what it is
Mm-hmm.
that you anticipate is going to be the interaction. So because you already anticipate that, you begin to just say, I'm just going to be silent. And then
Mm-hmm.
they try to invite you into the chaos of the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because usually you have so much to say. Why are you so quiet now?
Mm-hmm.
And you're still sitting there trying to figure out, how can I say this the right way without attacking or making someone feel
Yes.
intimidated?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And in some situations, there's no way you can say it. I'm sorry. Yeah, in some situations, there is no way.
Correct. Correct. Other than to say it, and us both being clinicians of record is what I'll say. I was going to say something else, but I'll say of record. We have a certain set of training skills that we can say things to make the situation feel better, but you have no control over how someone receives it.
Right. Very true.
And
Very
because
true.
you can't control how people receive something, it makes it challenging. Look who popped in the room.
Hey, hey, Daryl, how are you? And you popped in just
I'm
in
good. My
time because
reception.
I do have to take this call. So Mary wouldn't be sitting there talking to herself.
Oh my goodness.
Excuse
Well,
Oh
me.
wow,
he said something about his reception. You put him on the spot.
might be.
Ah,
It might be bad. Yeah, it might be
5 minutes.
bad. So
5 minutes.
okay,
She
I
said
got
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
I got 5 minutes for you.
We were talking about, I don't know if you had heard, before actually getting logged in, we were talking about how the dynamic of being passionate about your view and people taking that as you're attacking them or they feel intimidated by your presence and so
Right,
forth,
right.
and like what that actually looks like. And so Doc had, we before in coming on live in the green room, I had asked her has she had any experiences, and she was recalling it in that moment before that call came in.
Oh,
Right,
I missed
right.
it. I got to catch on the
You
replay.
got it. But we were saying too how it changes for towards the intimidation and the fragility aspect when ethnic groups are different in that power dynamic,
Right.
but it also exists when the ethnic group is the same as like black woman to black woman to black male. And I'm not sure about male on male, but I know that, that power dynamic where people may not, they may choose to make a territory line, if you will,
Mm,
that you can't have any safe place to talk to them about how it is that you feel intimidated, how you may feel that your voice is not heard or recognized in some particular way.
right. 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 I think that a lot of times, well, people don't want to believe that they're doing anything that could be perceived as wrong or
Mm-hmm.
wrong, period. So you coming to them and saying, "Hey, look, what you said," kind of, they a lot of times they won't receive it well, and that's
Mm-hmm.
and then especially and kind of like I said, especially with the I know being a black man, sometimes I'm perceived as more aggressive in anything I say. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime I
Even
don't
with your
go
tone of voice being like now, like you're nice and
right,
even
right,
keel.
but
Mm-hmm.
this is not what they hear. They hear what they see are um, those old tropes of us. They see those when we speak. So I remember my one friend was telling me he was having disagreement with the I guess the boss. We'll call him the boss
Okay.
about something, whatever the disagreement was about.
Right.
And this guy, I love talking to him because he's very well spoken. His lexicon was very expanded, so I just love listening to him talk. He had a great he just his verbiage was so dope. So he was talking to the guy, and I remember we were sitting there. He got up to shake his hand, and the dude almost jumped out of his chair,
Mm.
like
From wanting to shake his hand.
he felt like he was going to attack him. So when he seen this black man go stand up, because there was a disagreement, but it wasn't a disagreement in the sense where it was an argument or anybody was hot headed. Hey, I
Right.
just don't see it the way you see it. Okay. He stood up to shake his hand, and the dude damn near jumped out his chair. Uh, because in his mind, he was coming across as able to attack him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I just laughed and laughed. It tickled me, but it definitely showed where his mind was.
Right.
His mind was somewhere totally different than even like he wasn't even reading the room, or he was reading a different book
Right.
Because everything was calm, cool, and we understand, we see it differently. It was almost one of those we agree to disagree type moments.
But it also reminds me like the agree to disagree and him reacting from the gentleman standing up to shake his hand remind me of another example when we were preparing for this conversation that you shared around this woman who was uncomfortable when you would walk in the office like behind
Oh,
her just to
right.
pass
No.
by.
It wasn't even behind her. We could be face to face. We're coming at each other, and every time she would see me, she would jump.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, to the point where
Mm-hmm.
I would jump. Like, so I eventually said, "Look, I work here. Like, you see me, I work here with you. Like, stop jumping."
Mm-hmm.
And I know another guy at the office had the same issue, and he used to carry Tic Tacs in his pocket to alert her when he's coming, so she wouldn't be afraid. So now it was his job to make her feel not afraid of him working at the same job that she was at.
And it's like there's so many biases that can come with that. Like one, you making
Absolutely.
accommodations for
Right.
someone, and you don't really know where that came from, but you
Mhm.
only internalize that now you have to shift your position differently so that people can kind of hear you differently or
Right. Right.
respect you differently, and all you're doing is walking by or having a general greeting. Men shake their hands when they meet each other.
Right.
Mhm.
Or leave. A sign of the meeting over. So, okay, Bob, how are you doing, Bob? Uh, but when you see, but see,
Yeah, Bob.
that's when they view you as something different than what you are. Right.
Mhm.
And that's what I had to tell her. Like, I don't know what you think. If you're afraid of black people, get a different job. Right. Just
Mhm.
get a different job. And then I had to worry about saying that. I'm like, that now are they gonna call me down because I said this to this woman? But
Mhm.
I was offended. Right. I was tired of being offended because it felt like a smack in the
Mhm.
face every time it happened. Right.
Mhm.
It definitely made it uneasy. And now you say you got to tiptoe around this person because you don't want to make them upset. We don't want her to think anything I did. If I move too fast and she say that I did something, I don't want to be Emmett Tilled because she
Mhm.
felt a certain way. You understand? Like, this is real for a
Mhm.
black man.
Right.
I don't want
And
to
Mhm.
that's
be
your internal narrative that begins to
right.
play every single time,
Mhm.
not only
Mhm.
her, but it begins to play with anybody else that I guess resembles her. Or when you're in another workspace, do you have to make accommodations again for just being simply you?
Right.
Mhm.
And that makes the job even tougher.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
now you have to deal with the stress of that and also worrying about not offending or making someone afraid of me just being me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of those instances, the person, the afraid person, thinks that you should understand.
Right,
When if this is something that's traumatic for her, she should get help
Mm-hmm.
right, right.
and not put the onus on you or the other guy to make
Mm-hmm.
her feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like he done put in a whole accommodation, probably not even just for him. He probably didn't even like Tic Tacs.
Mhm.
But now it's like everything is shaped around that individual. And then if it's brought up in your supervision, it's like, okay, what else can you do to accommodate that person
Mhm.
who is having this adjustment? But it's like,
Mhm.
okay, no, how can we accommodate me? Because
Mhm.
I am being impacted as well. And that's when the harassment usually tends to change, either a transfer from a department or you notice that tasks begin to change in your workflow. And
Mhm.
it's just it becomes a bias, one up, one down interaction that makes working there now unsafe.
Mhm.
See, that makes it tough because that harassment isn't taken almost as serious as it should be. Because I'm being harassed by her doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I'm being harassed and you guys are not taking it serious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
There was nothing really done about it. There's nothing. It's one of the things that's like, well, there's nothing we can do. She's afraid of black people.
But like I think it's that.
What do we do? That
Go ahead, Daryl.
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, I just put that banner up because we had it last week. Like it's a psychological, overt and subtle, like transaction that's happening. Her perception becomes her reality, but then her perception also becomes the reality of everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the man who was going to shake the hand for the greeting or the closing of the meeting and feeling intimidated, like, why did that trigger you in that particular way? And it's like looking at how do you unpack that? Because that's something you got to figure out because you're the consistent variable that's causing this disruption in the
Right,
workplace.
right.
So that's something that should be
But see,
addressed
that's
in
where
her.
it's unfair.
Correct.
Yes,
But you
but
can't
and
know
that's
what's in
where it's
her
unfair
supervision
because
because
it's
now
not.
she's protected by certain um protective mechanisms of
Mm-hmm.
confidentiality and her
Mm-hmm.
unique ability that she brings or he brings to the workplace. So then if you even ask in the process of where the accommodation is being placed for you and acknowledging that as harassment, the person on the other side is now saying, well, I can't tell you what's happening with her. We just got to deal with you. And you like,
I
okay,
know
well,
that, but what I'm saying is, I would hope that at some point she develops the insight to
mhm,
say to whoever she's meeting with,
mhm,
I'm jumping every time certain people are around me,
mhm,
and then maybe start to address it her, address it from her need uh for her need to become comfortable, because I would think that would be what is needed at some point for her to be comfortable enough that she's not doing this,
mhm.
or like Daryl said, her need for a new job where there are no black people.
Yes, right, right. Yeah, exactly. You understand me?
But we,
Mhm.
but we I
But
understand you for sure. But like the reality of that whole dynamic, we know in our experiences or things that have been told and shared with us that that's not always necessarily how that goes.
Well, yeah, yes,
And
yes.
it's
especially
never
with,
that's never how it
Even
goes. It's never how it goes.
right, and even if she does have enough insight to say that this is what's happening to her, she may still try to make it your problem, Daryl, or the other guy's problem.
mhm,
Or make it not even a problem. Like, I don't really jump. I'm not sure what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
very dismissive and callous and
Very,
Mm-hmm.
very dismissive. Yeah, very dismissive of. They don't. People don't. It's every time you think something is race, it's never racism. Like I've never seen anything be racism. It is
Yes.
never racism, and it'd be clear as day. But it's like
mhm,
that's not racism. Oh, it's not because
mhm,
they're black. Are you jumped for anybody else? Oh, I'm not even jumped for them. Okay. So it's one of those things that sometimes if we feel like we almost just have to accept because we know there's no real help coming. It's tough.
right.
There's no real help in that situation, you know. And if I start jumping around scaring or talking about boo around the corner, now I'll be in trouble. That's
Yes,
what I want
because
to
now
do.
you
I
agitating
want
what's
to say, hey
Right.
already an
man,
uncomfortable situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be trying to use comedy to make your comedy like the Tic Tac replacement. However,
Mm-hmm.
you never know how people internalize it. So it's like
Yeah.
how they internalize it becomes this unwritten bias and power dynamic that gets in the way of the whole situation altogether.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I think Daryl
but
raised
my
it. Go
problem is
ahead.
I feel like we that the two men and I don't know if whoever else we just happened to talk about it. Whoever else is this is happening to, their needs are not being addressed or they're not being made to feel more comfortable in the
Mhm,
situation because they want to make she's getting all the comfort to me because we're saying something and they're like, well, is it that? Is it well? What really is it? Are you sure she jumps? Now we're
mhm,
all crazy, right?
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm
Because you didn't
talking
experience
crazy
what you
because they're
saying that
seeing
you
me crazy,
experienced.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I don't know any better. I wouldn't know any better, you know.
Mhm,
Or we're always playing a race card. So it's very different way. These little that little subtle harassment that goes on, like you're playing a race card. Like, am I really playing a race card?
mhm,
Did you ever see a jump? You didn't. I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't.
Mhm.
But
But I
so it's
think that
tough.
when harassment shifts to the race card, that's almost like telling you that we're giving you the silence card. Like we're giving you we don't talk about that around here versus let's figure out how we
Right.
can resolve this situation because we know race, we know politics, we know religion are like those alleged taboo conversations. But once you mention it, then it's like, okay, oh shush, we can't talk about that here. But it
Right.
dismisses the existence of the psychological warfare that actually is brought into that culture of the team and how people are interacting with each other.
So if you acknowledge your reality, what does that say? You know, if we
Mhm.
acknowledge that she might be jumping every time she sees Daryl, then
Right.
we got to do
Right.
something. We would have to do something about that.
Right. And if you're a
Right.
person, if
Right.
you're a
Right.
manager that doesn't resolve conflict, you just want everybody to get along. Let's just have
Mhm.
a luncheon. Let me just
Mhm.
get y'all Dunkin' Donuts gift cards, or like you
Mhm.
just gonna again brush that stroke to cover it up. Yeah, it's just manifesting until the next time that it happens, or the next time it's supposed to be a group activity. It's not going to be a group activity, or people going to do cameos to say they was there, and then you're not going to get the effect of the team building activity that
Mhm.
you want.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get people to acknowledge not even that these things are happening, but the emotions behind it, the stuff that it causes. And you mentioned that, Mary. You
Mm-hmm.
know what? If you start acknowledging that people are feeling some kind of way about these things,
Mm-hmm.
then you know people start internalizing. Well, what does that say about me? What does that say about our company? What does that say about you know? I would say that most people get into the what does that say about me
Versus trying to resolve it,
versus trying to resolve it.
because if and a
Or
person,
again,
no, go
sometimes
ahead,
it's
Daryl.
difficult to resolve something. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's difficult to resolve something when your point of reference is not that. When you don't
Mm-hmm.
understand where it's coming from. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't understand why would she jump, or you don't understand that, then you won't even. Sometimes you don't give it the credence it deserves because you're like, I don't understand. What are you talking about? I don't. It's not from your point of reference. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times things are lost in translation. So like I said, then they don't understand the feeling behind it because they don't really understand what's going on to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that we have to deal with when if someone doesn't understand that what you're going through that point of view, they can dismiss it easier too because of lack of
Yeah.
knowledge sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Ignorance is definitely, something people can fall on at times.
Of course, yes. And it's difficult to make people comfortable to challenge. You
Right.
Right.
challenge these stereotypes. If this is what you're seeing and what she's doing, challenge her on it. Nobody wants to do that. And Daryl, you can't
Oh,
do it for
absolutely
you.
not.
You can't do it.
Yeah, because that challenge becomes a threat at that point,
Yes.
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Exactly. And it
what you
does, and
say
it
and what she hears.
formalizes that intimidation factor, or that intimidation value or belief that someone may have, all because you're saying what your point of view is or how you feel about it, and we don't talk about feelings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
as if feelings can't come into the workplace, but you're still human when you come into the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
human when you go into the CVS or into the grocery store and somebody is doing those same type of gestures when you walk by. So it's like, where are these biases and aggressions like coming from? And how can you tell me? You could easily tell me that I'm internalizing something, but how can we engineer this backwards as far as developing a plan on how it can not exist?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if someone said to her, someone else
Yes, and that's the thing. It probably got to be a third party.
said to her, "So what are you thinking? What's going through your mind?"
Mhm.
Mhm.
And she gets is comfortable enough to say, whatever her trauma narrative is,
Mhm.
I was whatever, I'm afraid because of this, that, or the other thing, or this happened to me before, or,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
whatever. Then the door opens.
Mhm.
The door
Doors
opens
box
for
open.
huh?
Pandora's box possibly open.
Yeah, yes. But sometimes it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And you could grow on the other side of it
yeah,
being necessary.
yes, yes. And it opens the door for discussion. Some and even, starting to develop some empathy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which could help you change the way you think and behave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, if she was able to say, "Hey, I can't. This must feel terrible to him
Mm-hmm.
for this to happen every single time."
Right.
But, but normally in those cases, if we don't take this moment that you're describing, Doc, to like
Mhm.
really take the perspective or ownership of how the people around me are impacted by my reaction,
Yes.
you usually have more value in playing victim, which continues to draw what you believe to be positive attention towards yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately negative attention towards anybody else who in your mind has violated you.
Very true. Very true.
And a lot of
And if
people
you're
default to that play victim thing,
Yes,
you
and if
know.
you have a audience
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and a support system for it,
mm-hmm,
of course, you just keep doing it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's interesting that it makes me think of an example. And if anybody is familiar with Germantown High School being one of the biggest high schools here in Philadelphia, and
Mhm.
I was working as a probation therapist at the time, and this young woman thrived off of attention, and she was new to
Mhm.
the neighborhood, so she was getting attention, but she was threatening people all over the place. So I had to come
Mhm.
in and be the mean version of the therapist, whatever that looks like. But we were in the cafeteria, and I knew that I had to get her from the cafeteria to another place, or the situation was going to look totally different. Because if she had an audience, then it was going to be a riot. It was, all
Mhm.
this other stuff. But if I got her out of the way from the audience, then I was able to connect with her one on one, even though she was still escalated, to begin to kind of process what happened. We're not going to talk about how that night went to 3 a.m. the following morning, but
Mhm.
the essence of that example was, people who play the victim look and thrive off of an audience.
Mhm.
And as long
Mhm.
as they have an audience, somebody to listen to them to play that victim story, then they're going to continue to act their role.
Mhm.
And what's harassment is not necessarily, well, it is harassment, but it turns into something like a microaggression, macroaggression, like all these other shenanigans.
Mhm. Very true.
And so the other thing is like the gender bias, which we could probably have a couple examples on this gender bias thing. The first thing I would think about is having a water cooler, and only the men who probably don't even drink from the water cooler can change the water.
Yes.
And whenever they come in the office, you'd be like, "Hey, Daryl, can you change that water?"
Mhm.
Oh, and I'm like, hey, no, I can't. You got arms just like I do. Um, and I got into it like I got into it because they were asking me to move boxes or something. I'm like, don't we all got the same job title? I don't have nothing to say. I got exclusivity over boxes. They're like, but you're a man. You just do it for who? I don't. What?
Mm-hmm.
Have fun with your boxes. I smooth walked away, and they were so upset at me. Well, he ain't no man. You right? Whatever you say.
And yeah, like
But
your
he
gender
ain't he
gives.
ain't moving those boxes either.
You are not a man.
I'm not moving them boxes either.
They don't say that you're not a man when they giving you them certain cases that require your gender to be represented.
You understand? I think they could use a male. I think they can use somebody with this job title.
And my skill set or our skill set, right?
Our skill set. Yeah, we all get paid to do the same work. Nothing say I have to do something or other. I always do that. I don't really subscribe to that, nor do I let that happen.
I kindly already knew that when I gave that scenario serving up the water cooler
Yeah.
that,
I
that you
was
wouldn't be that person.
I was
Y'all gonna be thirsty waiting for me.
I was speaking to someone today who was telling me that she found out at her job that the men at her level make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Same experience, same degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
how upsetting this was for her.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that that happens all the time.
She didn't know you get more money
Absolutely.
for a penis.
Yes.
He went all
Yes.
the way to the penis, though.
Yes.
I mean, that's what kind of breaks down. It's crazy that that's the way it is, but it's just what happens.
And it could be the same skill set. However, that gender bias, like it really is like a pay gap. Like it's a wage pay gap that has existed since the early 1930s, 1950s. And the difference
Right.
between what it looks like is still like it's another form of a power dynamic.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because you
Yeah.
don't deserve as a female, you're not supposed to be the breadwinner. Only the men are supposed to be a breadwinner. What?
Mhm. Mhm.
What?
And I wonder what happens when you find that out. You find that you're making less than your counterpart, and you're doing the same job, and you're the same qualified. And when you go in with this information, you find out and we never find out usually what happens in those situations. But what happens? Do they give it to you, or do they tell you they can't give it to you? What I wonder what happens. Does anybody know what happens when you
Well,
bring it to the
the
company?
person I'm talking about, we're working through that now because
Okay,
she's going to attack it.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Basically, this is what she wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I will let you know what happened.
That's crazy.
And I think
She has
it
to.
comes with
Like,
positioning yourself because
Mhm.
in times before, people probably will bring up the feminist movement and all of that. And it really isn't even about that. It's
Mhm.
about knowing the value and knowing the worth of what you contribute to the hour. And not saying that you have to have the comparison between you and your coworker, but if you are contributing to the hour a certain value that you can evidence, then it's a
Mhm.
matter of positioning yourself to show
Mhm.
that your rate should be whatever. And you're not trading time for dollars. You're trading skill set for
Mhm.
value.
Mhm. Yes,
mm,
that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
How to position herself when she walks in there and
Mm-hmm.
lays it out on the table.
Mm-hmm. And it has to
Mhm.
be a I'm sorry, Daryl, was you about to say something? No, he preoccupied. It comes with the positioning of really knowing all of your facts and not personalizing it.
Mhm.
Like speaking about the facts of evidencing why the value of what it is that is contributed from your side to the overall goal of the department or the role.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not a personal journey, although it's going to be a personal compensation when you see my side, but it's a
Mhm.
personal conversation in regards to you want to help them see the diverse ways that are broken or not consistent across the board,
Mhm.
and in a
Mhm.
non-threatening way.
Right. Right. Yeah, because if you kick down the door and Bob makes more money than me,
Mm-hmm.
then they're not going to take you seriously.
They're not.
oh, I'm like, well, listen, I'm gonna take something seriously. We do the same job, yeah, and we do the same thing. He getting paid more. What's up?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I mean,
And
that's
the
how I'm
thing
coming.
sometimes,
If I have those facts.
and some,
Mhm.
and sometimes they'll try to, like I'm working with somebody now that they'll try to use the credentials that the person has, but the credentials don't always have anything to do with what it is that the job is calling for.
Right.
Sometimes, but it
Right.
really doesn't always have to do with what the job is calling
Yeah,
for. So
because
you,
they'll say, well, Bob has a degree in raining cats, or Bob can Bob went to school to become a barber. It's like, wait a minute, but we're doing experiments. What the heck does that have to do with
Right,
anything?
right, right. Hey, Miss Ruth.
Hey, Neil. So yes, they sometimes they will say, try to make it seem that Bob has so much more,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
it
it's
may not
usually,
even be relevant.
and it may not be relevant like at all. And then, but then on the reverse of that, you could really have all of these credentials, but if you don't have that growth mindset, then that makes you not prepared for the promotion or the higher pay,
Mhm.
because you have all the credentials, but your mindset is sitting in the freezer. Like you're not
Mhm.
going nowhere.
Mhm.
So if you can't get thought out to be open to consider new things, you're gonna be sitting in that same pay scale for a while.
Mhm. Mhm. And they will have evidence to say that that's where you belong.
Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Hey, remember
Absolutely.
you was late that one time? There you go.
That's the thing. Like people
Yeah.
about their behaviors, like when you're
Yeah.
in this positioning phase. Oh my gosh, this has made me think of another situation with the person I'm working with. Like there's a quota. I can't say that. I can say there's a quota. I just can't say the other part of
Mm.
what they have to do per week. And during the pandemic, that quota
Right.
had different flexibility. And it was never a conversation to say, okay, well, now things are changing. I mean, we're still in the pandemic. Now things are changing. We need you to go back to full scale. They didn't have
Mhm.
that conversation. This person understood full scale meant, health insurance and stuff like that, which is something that they didn't need. So this flexible schedule was working great for them.
Mhm.
Now it's time to be positioned for a promotion. And that's one of the things that they are. Well, you don't even do the
Mhm.
of the
Mhm.
current job. How are you asking for a higher, position? And of course, where that flexibility conversation was had in leadership, that person is no longer there, but they're still working under that narrative and now trying to engineer backwards. And it's very challenging to do that
Mhm. Mhm.
because the new person is looking at paper. Paper says your
Mhm.
quota is this, and you keep going under that by 5 each.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Actually, you owe us a couple dollars.
but they feel like they wouldn't because they don't need what the couple dollars will pay for, which will be benefits.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yes. It's actually made me think of something. I guess I blocked all these memories. Now they're coming back.
See, that's that. I'm not gonna call yours actual trauma, but that's what that would be a perfect example of trauma that we don't think that certain things have
Yes.
been experienced or happen because we've moved past them. We've already pushed them under the rug and not dealing with it because now we're in a new situation. But then when you begin to talk, you're like, oh, wait a minute, let me
Mhm.
tell you about.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking of a position that I held many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and being in the room with all white men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only woman, I'm the only black person.
Mm-hmm.
And higher degree than everyone everyone in the
Mm-hmm.
room.
Mm-hmm.
Equal positions to some,
Mm-hmm.
and being asked to take notes.
Mm.
Right? You gonna take the note? No.
I
And I was
mean,
comfortable saying no. Why don't you take the notes?
Exactly.
But just that just asking me instead of anyone else around the
Correct.
table.
Because of the dynamic in the room around the table,
Mhm.
from their perspective, patriarchy.
maybe maybe it was because you had the best handwriting.
What? I can barely read my handwriting, so I
Yeah,
know that's not
I was gonna
true.
say they didn't see her handwriting. She
For
she
real.
she docked for real.
Yes.
I say that with love,
So you
Doc.
should
I
have
say
took
that
I
with
notes
love.
know.
for him.
I know.
Doc,
But
you
yeah,
Um,
definitely
you know,
definitely took notes for him. You should have
Thinking
went
about
got some chicken scratch on the
asking to
paper.
get coffee.
Asking to set up the party and to get all of the decorations for the party,
Mhm.
or make the
Mhm.
grocery
I
store
mean,
run. Like all of those are gender biases or gender
Mhm.
wars. Just like the water cooler, can you change the water cooler?
Right.
mhm,
Like that's all harassment.
Mhm. Mhm.
Someone had written that they'll hold your individual development plan, which some people may call performance review,
Mhm.
against you to give you a reason why they aren't able to increase your pay. But
Yes.
even that has bias.
Mhm.
Because when did you talk to me about my goals before we got to this 6 month or 12-month review? And did we have check ins on what I did well, what I could have made improvements with,
Mhm.
along the way? But now that I'm asking for pay, you want to go back to what your note said? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
do you see my statement that I wrote on how I countered some of those things, or what our development plan actually was moving forward? Is that taken into play? So it's so
Not
much.
usually.
It's not. It's
Mm-mm.
not.
Not usually.
It's definitely not. Um, I'm trying to think of another gender war. You did the notes, water cooler. Somebody offers to buy you lunch,
Mm.
or lunch just shows up on a regular basis before they ask for a favor of some sort.
I'm eating your lunch and I'm not doing no favors.
remember, accepting a lunch is saying yes to whatever.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. I don't believe that. We need
Hey,
to have a
hey,
conversation about what this lunch means
Gosh!
before we can
well,
before we can decide if I'm saying yes to something.
Let your
well,
yes
stop
be
me.
your yes and your no be your no. Like you just said yes to this special lunch delivery, coffee delivery over
Hmm.
time. You should have expected that was like an unspoken harassment in a sense, that it was something else that was coming after that. This is so funny because I gotta say
just
this.
the
We've been talking about this for a few weeks. So Doc is trying to go left on the play. Well, she knew that this question was coming up at some point.
Oh
I wasn't
man.
even gonna put you on blast, but by the way you went on left on the play, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say the other part with the sleepy eyes or nothing like that.
Oh gosh.
So Daryl, you said if
Mm-mm-mm.
they accepted the lunch, then they should accept the whatever the
no.
other
What I'm saying is
invitation is without harassment.
no. Even before that, just giving someone a lunch on a consistent basis without really asking them if it's okay is a problem in itself. Because you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
forcing them to do something. Like if you keep doing it, you're kind of raping their time at that point. Like
Hmm.
you don't know what their situation is. You don't know if they want this lunch, and everybody doesn't speak up. So kind of
Right.
just just giving someone lunch every day could be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. It
Mm-hmm.
could be for
It
some
could
people.
be.
Very true.
It could be for some people.
Some people would take a lunch every
I'm
day.
just joking. I'm just joking, guys. I mean, you really, you
It's that
shouldn't make a move
boundaries.
like that, especially if there's a power differential for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know, like Daryl said, the person may not feel comfortable speaking up and
Mm-hmm.
saying that this makes me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Just like your hand on the shoulder
Oh gosh,
is not
you should keep
comfortable.
your hands to yourself or
That's
at all
another
times.
it's another power dynamic that comes into play. So be it lunch, coffee,
Mm,
gifts, like it's you have to draw the line to create that boundary on what's acceptable, because when it comes down the line that you want to now call the harassment card, you was
Well, my
complicit to a
what
certain
is the
point.
I would say what is the boundary? Because I think that a lot of times things are done to check the temperature. You put your hand on the shoulder to see the reaction,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
You buy the coffee to see the reaction, right?
mhm,
Hey, you want to go to see the reaction? You're checking the temperature, right?
mhm,
But
mhm.
you know when, and this is in any job, like you got to know when is it a problem? When does it
Mm-hmm.
become a problem? Because like I said, maybe the person's not in a position to say anything, and it don't have to be power dynamic. You could be on the same level, you could be peers, but just maybe they just don't want to be seen, rejecting this person at work or something, or know how to do it. So how do you navigate that?
This reminds me of a meme I saw.
But
it
what
reminds
you say, Daryl?
I said, no, doc said keep your hands to yourself. But how are we gonna check that temperature?
This reminds me of a meme that I saw where it had like someone who wouldn't be considered attractive to most people saying something slick to a woman and saying sexual harassment, and someone who would be considered attractive saying the same thing, not sexual harassment. So so I'm thinking about the same question. Like, should it matter? Should it matter who it comes from? Should sexual harassment be sexual harassment, whether you think the guy is attractive or not, or the woman is attractive or not?
Well, harassment means you don't want it. You can't harass the willing. So the ugly, you don't want it from an ugly person. I get it. You don't want it from an ugly person. So if you're ugly, don't say that to anybody. if you're attractive, then go ahead harass away. That's the thing.
I just want to add to this, like when we talk about power dynamic, I'm just adding this. When we talk about power dynamic, it doesn't always have to be one person leadership over the other, or one person having a higher position.
Right.
It really can go to what you were saying, Daryl, the person feeling that they can speak up about it or not. So then it becomes like an unspoken bias of power in that way. Do you give the power of your voice to either advocate for yourself or to not advocate for yourself?
Right.
Because it's all unwelcome behavior.
Right.
Yeah, because the person that's doing it, when they start off, they don't know if it's going to be welcomed or not.
But they're going to try.
They're going to try.
Checking the temperature. You got to check the temperature. See what this is like. Let me place my hand here and see what happens. If she moves, she don't move, and you feed off of that. If they don't move, you're like, okay, and you really feel like this is accepted, whether it is or not in their mind. But in your mind, you're like, okay, the hand, and then maybe you'll move to a different part, or whatever, you'll move to your next level, whatever that may be. Maybe coffee, or to the point where you ask them out or something, whatever the case may be.
Whatever.
But maybe the person didn't move because they were terrified. Because
the last time that this happened.
What I mean. So, so perception, right? Perception is real. I'm saying, so the whoever's doing the touching may feel that the person didn't move.
Yes.
I perceive this to be a go. I perceive this to be okay. And other person may be like, oh my God, I can't stand this. I wish they would move their hand. So now I'm bringing you coffee. Now, if you accept the coffee, even under kind of like protest, you accept it. You just accepted my advance again. Because I'm reading into it. Delusions of grandeur are real. I believe now you're accepting my advances, right? And now I'm moving forward with the relationship, and you're just doing it, trying to get out of it. Now I'm, it goes further and further depending on the person, and it could become a real problem because we're really on two different pages. Like, what do you mean you didn't like me? You took the coffee.
I drink coffee. I drink coffee.
I drink coffee. You offered.
And you asked me how did I like my coffee. I told you it was casual conversation. To me, it was casual conversation.
Right.
You now going to Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks to get my coffee. I didn't ask you to do that, but I appreciate it.
But see, for me, it's intimate. You told me how you like it. Everybody
having a general conversation in a staff meeting, and somebody in the staff meeting asked me how I like my coffee, and you took notes. I'm responsible now because you took notes and now going to the store.
We're not talking about that. This is, I asked you in conversation. Could you talk to that person, and again, that conversation could mean very different things to you than it does to me. Right. If you're talking about, oh, I got a cat, I'm knowing personal information. she's letting me in her life, right? So
Mm.
that could really mean something
Yes,
to me.
yes,
Everything you
yes.
do could be okay. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? When you
Mhm,
walk by my desk, say hi. She came and found me and say hi. Okay,
mhm.
this thing is
That's your
moving.
delusion is being
She knows
Mhm.
fed
that
each
Right,
moment.
right.
right,
Not that the
right,
your
right,
desk is right
right.
next to
But
the bathroom.
Right. Right.
or she said
Or
hi
I
to
was at the
everybody in the room,
copier.
but you didn't hear that to
Mhm,
everybody else. Right. You know, but this is why we have to kind of put those boundaries up at work and not
mhm.
accept things from people. The first time, if that's not really what you want, you got to know, no, thank you.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm. So when I was younger, during our company's morning meeting, my supervisor would always ask me, "Can you say welcome to McDonald's in front of our whole department?"
What? What did you work for McDonald's?
I think so. I said honestly was too young to understand that it was okay to speak up for myself.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Wait,
At
you say welcome to McDonald's to who?
to the
In
team
front of
before
the
the
whole
team
department.
meeting. Like she was the one that was select. Well, I'm assuming she. I apologize because I don't know. Um, but like this, and see that could go so many different ways. But in the essence of what we're talking about right now, being asked to say welcome to McDonald's, how she felt or he felt in that moment is everything.
Right, right,
Mhm, mhm.
We don't know what the manager's intentionality was, like
Right.
if there was manipulation that was happening, if there was positioning that was happening, if it was
Mhm,
harassment, but how the staff person felt was, why you
mhm.
pick me, why, and if I speak up, does that make me not position myself for a promotion or to keep
Right,
getting hours,
right.
to level up in this job? Like it's just so many other unspoken things that can happen.
Mhm,
But you
mhm,
like, well, all these people standing around, why I gotta be the one to say good morning, McDonald's,
mhm,
or welcome to McDonald's?
mhm.
right. That's interesting.
Okay, so she is qualifying the what was said.
And
So
see, I thought that the way she worded it, I'm like, I figured she didn't work for McDonald's. Okay.
wow,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Why would I say work for McDonald's? I don't work for McDonald's. Right.
right. And see, I didn't pick that up, Doc. So
They
I'm glad
got you
you
out
did.
there.
They got
It's,
They
you
got
out
out
there
here looking
representing
crazy.
other
Trying to have
people.
out there looking crazy.
yeah,
Looking
but
crazy. Go say welcome to
yeah,
McDonald's.
yes.
You got
That
out looking
I mean, and
crazy.
that could be whew, a way of intimidating someone.
Mm-hmm.
You
Is that
know,
still checking the
And
temperature though?
degrading them acts
no,
almost.
I don't think that's
Degrading them.
taking the temperature. I think that's
Nah,
a
I think
way
it's
of putting,
degrading. That's
that
degrading.
exactly that's a way of putting you
Yeah,
down
Mm-hmm.
keeping you in
and
your place.
degrading you.
Like
Yeah.
sexual
Putting you in your place.
objectification.
Mm,
Like you're being sexually objectified in that point.
mm.
I don't know
From the
about that. I mean, I think it's more like, yo, go say welcome to McDonald's.
Right,
Basically laughing at you
right.
because they ain't got nothing to do with your job.
It's like a
So
minstrel
what are you
show.
saying it for? I don't think. I think it's more than showing. Right. Like, go ahead. Welcome to McDonald's. Like they
Yes,
want you up there singing and dancing, so we can just
yes.
laugh at it.
That's what I'm thinking
but
of.
to
You're
get
the only
in
black female,
return.
and they have you doing something way out of character
Mm-hmm.
that has nothing to do with what we do here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or
Right.
what your role
Right.
is, like what you're getting paid for, or
Mhm,
right, right.
Hey, go out in front of all of us and make us laugh. Go ahead.
mhm,
Because
You're
they always
welcome.
want black people to be the entertainers. Like that's where they
mhm,
categorize our value at
mhm,
versus
mhm,
being the
Right.
CEO or the ownership or anything like that.
mhm, mhm. Wow, that's terrible.
That is terrible. That is terrible.
I'm sorry. Did she say she did it? Oh, she did do it, right? Because she didn't feel she had a voice not to do it. Is
Mhm.
that what she
Right.
said? I'm not sure.
No, she said she didn't. She
She was
couldn't
too
speak
Wow.
up
young
for
to
So,
herself.
understand that she could speak up.
Yeah.
gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
And like I said,
And that
and
comes from other aspects in life too, like how you respect the older adults that are around you, or
Mhm.
the certain ethnic group of older adults around you, like you do
Mhm.
what they say or whatever to stay safe.
Mhm.
Like it's
Mhm.
so many directions we could take that statement. So I hope that what I've said or what we've said is not offensive. We're just trying
Mhm.
to peel back those layers of how that really does fall into harassment.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
and it's about how it made her feel. If it made her
Exactly.
feel a certain type of way, then it's a problem. It depends
Right.
how they made it, how they felt it was, and not intended. We didn't intend it to hurt you, but it did.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
because how you feel and your point of view, like truly, truly matters, like no matter what. And nobody can tell you the
Right,
impact
right,
except for you, because you are the expert to how your mind and your body and your spirit works.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm. Wow.
Jeez. So,
So
so how many times can you ask somebody out of work before it's harassment?
One.
But sometimes women want you to, they don't want to be easy the first time, so they want you to, what I mean, they go
they
the
want
first
you to
time,
keep doing the work.
they want
Mm.
you to put in work. They don't want to seem easy. So that's the tough part about it. Sometimes,
I
you tell me no
well,
once, I'm done. You even think if you think no, I'm done. If you be like, I'm like, never mind. You ain't got to say the word. You say any N words.
So we have a follow-up comment from that individual saying that I would never
Right.
speak up because I was always told that my opinion never mattered. And if I felt like I had a problem with it, they would take me to HR to fix it, which is,
mm.
yeah,
Intimidation.
intimidation, bullying,
And,
retaliation.
Mhm.
and and they would fix her. That would the problem. They would fix her. You
Mhm.
understand? Not she
One-sided.
had a problem, but we're going to fix you.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Can't win.
So
Mhm.
then that creates the dynamic, and that carries over when you leave one place of employment. You now have this understanding on how the role of HR is, or how the role of certain managers or coworkers, and the whatever they represent to you, be it a black male, be it a black woman, be it a Caucasian supervisor, whatever. You now have a narrative that you could be okay at a new job until you get triggered.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
once you get triggered, all of the stuff in the suitcase that you had stuck,
Yep.
under or you're
Yep.
not dealing with, just comes
Mhm.
out full fledged.
Yes, and I know that from personal experience. All the things you thought you dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you get an email from your new place, your new boss, that says, "Hey, I need to talk to you," and immediately your heart is pounding because you've come from a toxic, punitive environment. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like, every time your boss wants to talk to you or they want to see you about something, something bad is going to happen.
Absolutely, because they don't ever want to talk to you when something
Well,
Uh
good.
huh.
yeah,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
right. When else do they
Yeah.
want to talk to you when something is
Mhm.
bad?
It's
Mhm.
usually like a group meeting when it's something that we all as a team doing something. But when they want to talk to me one on one,
I
need
must have done something.
I must
Or
have
they
done
taught
something.
you
I need pen and paper. Um, because I need to take notes. And
something. Mhm.
even though you
Mhm.
think that you're prepared, you're still blindsided.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Mhm.
then on top of that, we got the melanated rules that we got to follow that other people don't got to follow.
That's not even
So we
written or
definitely have a
spoken.
whole right that we have to. That we kind of start to learn that okay, we have to do things differently. We can't do things as they do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very true, Daryl.
Very, very true. Which is a trigger in and of itself, because
Absolutely.
each setting, people come with a different mindset, flow, communication set, thinking that they're intimidated or you're coming off on them like you're attacking them in some particular way. So to answer the question about how do you fix the feeling or being triggered, you can't really fix the feeling.
Mhm.
You have to own and understand that the feeling is alerting you that something needs to be done
Mhm.
or that something is wrong. So the feeling, or even if it's stress, like a headache, chest pain, something like that, you have to acknowledge that this happens every time XYZ calls me into the office, or every time the alarm goes off in the morning to get ready for work, or every time you know, we have a team meeting. So you have to, one, identify the feeling and stress point of what when it happens. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you recognize that pattern, then you have to begin to engineer, if you could try to practice how you can already prepare your reaction before you get there. Like, so that way you won't be so paralyzed by the fact that um this trigger has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are going to have their behaviors. You can't stop them from being who they are. You could just stop how you react and give it
Right.
power and give it a platform to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about how much do you like this job, because I'm always ready to cuss a bitch out. Okay, I you you trigger me, I'm gonna shoot back. Okay, that's just me. That's how I deal with it. And we'll
Mm-hmm.
see what HR and the union how to help me keep my job. Hopefully,
Okay.
Hopefully,
hopefully,
with your
right?
laughter and all.
Because
Hopefully,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
yeah, because I can't. I'm to the point where I can't be pushed around anymore. I won't accept it. I'm not gonna let you do what you want to do to me, and not let you know back that this is a problem. And I'm not
mm-hmm,
gonna, I try to do it as respectfully as possible, but I know I'm seen as a villain. I know when I speak as a man, a black man at that, it's already aggressive,
with locks.
no matter how I'm speaking. Um, yeah, oh, with locks, definitely, you're aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to speak as calmly as possible. And even with that being said, I know it goes left, but I know it's gonna happen. So I try to prepare myself for it. Um, but I'm going to speak up and let them know I don't like how I was treated or how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And if we got to get the union involved or whatever, we can do it. I'm with it. I got time.
Right. Where do you have
But that's
time?
just me. I will have time if they let me go, so I'm going to have time to
You
fight
know what?
it.
Hawk, did
But
you
I
have
mean, that's
anything you
just where
wanted
I'm
to
at
add
right
to that?
now.
Say it again.
You have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think you did a good job of talking about, first tracking, because
Mm-hmm.
you need to know when this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to know what it's feeling like.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to say, when, when this happens, these are the physical manifestations that are triggered in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point as you're working through this, you'll begin to notice the thought process that you have. you
Mm-hmm.
know when I get this email saying that you want to talk to me, I start thinking I'm gonna get fired.
Mm-hmm. Or
And
you
then
begin racing. What did I do? What
yeah,
happened?
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Was I on
and
time?
then, and then you have to start tracking that as well. And then, you know hopefully when you're getting those emails, they aren't for bad things, and
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of counter this by changing your thought process,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know using real evidence, because you know you don't want to do the pie in the sky kind of thing, because
Mm-hmm.
after a while you don't believe yourself.
Right.
So it has to be based on real evidence. So if 3 out of 5 of the emails, nothing bad happened, you can use that. So
Right.
changing how you
Try to
think
wait.
about. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to say yes. You got to stop being so anxious about the email. Go in and see what happens before you work yourself up, worrying about
Mhm,
what, who, when. All right, go in there and see what
mhm,
happens. And then respond to what happens. Don't react to the email.
mhm,
Respond to whatever you learn in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
That'll help some of that anxiety go away. You won't be so anxious. And, anxiety does nothing but help the cortisone release in your body, stress,
mhm,
toxins. It does nothing for you. It's definitely like
mhm.
putting something on layaway and never buying it. So just deal with things.
I like
deal
that.
with
I like that.
deal with things as they come, like as you know what
Mhm.
they are. Instead, like you said, instead of making this imaginary, trying to guess and surmise what people are saying, or what, just wait to see what they say and then respond to it. That it works a lot better that way.
Mhm.
Because this, for me, I say it's not me. It's not me, and if it is me, I'll fix it or do what I can when I
Mm-hmm.
find out what it is. but I'm not going to worry before. I'm not going to do that. That just hurts me because they're not worried about it until they get me in the office. When I leave, they're not worried about it.
No, when they trying to go to sleep and you at home ruminating, rehearsing the conversation over and over again,
right.
they out having cocktails with their friends.
Exactly.
I remember one of these power dynamics that I experienced where, I mean, this is, oh my God, I actually worked with Doc at this time. So this is a real long time ago. And I was downtown Center City. And the boss was really like just ticked off at her. And I saw her having a drink outside at Elvis. And I was like, I'm off the clock. I can approach her differently off the clock. I wasn't driving. So I asked the person to go around the block again. But I think going around the block, I kind of gathered my thoughts to be nice and not react. However, I did need that reset moment to kind of like rethink things because like I really was upset at how she flicked her hair, that day, or, just kind of had this little power, if you will. And I was just like, I just want to get her back. She wasn't thinking about me. She was having her martinis at Elvis. But I'm so
living her best life.
Yeah.
I was consumed at that point, and that's when I realized, okay, I gotta let this energy go.
Right.
And sometimes you do have to talk yourself through it.
Yeah, but
and it took one. It was it's a good thing I didn't jump out the car the first time going around the corner, but it took one around the corner the second time for me to be able to rethink because in Center City you can't go around the corner quick.
Oh no, no.
You can't go around the corner quick.
Depending what job you have, even off the clock, you on the clock.
Correct.
Be careful. Some jobs will that meeting even outside of work would be looked at as you're at work.
Right. Even though she had a drink in her hand.
Deal with it.
Right.
Right.
And it's like we were both in management, so. Oh gosh. I'm sure you can imagine who that was.
Were you both melanated?
No, not at all. Melanated? Not at all. I was the only melanated.
So we know who would have got in trouble.
Right. Right. Philly probably wasn't ready.
The angry black woman approached me.
I think I was gonna sit down at the table. Can I offer a garçon? Can I have a drink? I think we need to have this conversation over a healthy adult beverage. But no, I kept going. I think the other dynamic too that comes into play though when we talk about how it is that we regulate like these triggers or whatever is the human value that we have on our jobs. And we don't want to get fired because we need the finances, we need the health benefits. We are wedded to that part of the outcome of every 14 days receiving that stipend. I said stipend. Your direct deposit. So it causes us to be hesitant or even respond from a stance of fear because if the outcome of going in the office is that being terminated, it impacts more than just me in this workplace.
Right. Yeah, right. I remember having that discussion.
So now you have to accept the harassment.
You don't have to, but you end up choosing to.
Yes.
And then that becomes a learned behavior
that's you feel like you have
unhealthy
to.
Learned behavior.
Right. You feel like you have. You feel like you have to because you have to feed your family. You feel like you have to because you got to pay the bills. You feel like you have to because I need gas. Right. So it becomes, like you said, now it becomes a learned behavior that you just do. You just kind of just let things happen to you. And now you're feeling bad and you're in therapy because they, at work, they walking all over you and you feel like you have no voice, but you can't leave. You got to feed baby. It gets tough.
Right. You got to pay the daycare. You got PGW knocking on your door.
And you got to pay for therapy.
And you got to pay for, you know
Right.
what, Doc? How did I forget that bill on the line item?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Therapy is an investment if you truly want to peel back the layers to get better. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
just those 3-8 sessions that people say is free if you're using your insurance. If you're not using your insurance, none of it is free. So like you really have to value how it is that you refuel your cup.
Mm-hmm.
Not going around a corner and saying I'm about to hop out and have a drink with the lady. Oh goodness. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Doc, the memories that come to mind in the middle of the conversation, because I
Yes.
definitely from the green room was not thinking about that particular individual.
And I remember talking to a group of coworkers in my previous job lifetime because
Mm-hmm.
the bad stuff was going on around the office and people huddled in different corners complaining. And I'm like, why don't we say something? Like, stop whispering. Let's talk about this.
Right.
And when I did talk to our director, no one was there to
Mm,
back up.
mm, that part.
Yeah. So that fear of losing your job or whatever is a real one, because when I said stop being scared to lose your job, you could get another one. People were like, not one like this, or it's probably going to be harder at the next job, or they start talking about all the reasons why
Mm-hmm.
they can't go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Say, all right, well,
But
just
they're
deal
in their
with
own
what's happening.
way.
Yeah, just deal with what's happening here. I'm not going to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
And
sometimes, and I'm not well, I guess I am endorsing this as a method, but sometimes if you really need to take a reset moment from the job, there's FMLA.
Mhm,
There's
mhm,
other leaves of absences that protect your position being in place.
mhm.
That if you just really need to take a break because maybe life is loud on the outside of work
Yes.
and it's causing you to be distracted on the inside of work. Um,
Mm,
you sometimes have to just take a break, and a break that's more than just a vacation or a long
right.
weekend.
Right.
Although when you're in those development meetings, that's what they'll say. Why don't you take the weekend to think about
Mhm.
your future here at this organization? That's an
Mhm.
intimidation tactic.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, they did. Left me to do it alone. Yes, they did.
Mm-mm.
And there was some backlash.
Of
There
course.
was some backlash, but I was like, oh, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Get over it.
Um, yeah. So I did a lot of like taking long vacations, go away for 2 weeks at a time. I
Mm-hmm.
took some educational leaves where I was going for months at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody should have their FU time,
Yeah.
right?
They really
Have
should
your
have
FU
had an FU
time.
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta have
Like
it.
if they added, like the way people are talking about adding mental health time, if they add mental health time and the FU time,
Yeah,
Yes.
people would be in a better place.
Uh-huh.
right.
I agree with that.
Because I get headaches real quick. As soon as somebody starts saying something dumb, I'm getting a headache. I'm gonna be going for a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
real fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
my mental health is more important than anything else. So I
Right.
can't take a
And I
lot.
think
You know, so
that's important to
Anytime
mention.
coming back to work, those symptoms come right back. So you be like, Doc, I might need another note to extend my time. Because my
on the go.
anxiety is not on layaway. It's coming right back.
You know,
Yes.
them headaches started. Them headaches started Sunday night again. Before I even got there, the headaches started. Doc, I'm gonna need
Hmm.
another 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big advocate for self-care. Yes.
Same here.
Do what you got to do.
Right, right, right.
Take
And we
care
all
of you
need to. We
first.
all need to be right.
Mhm.
And it's like, so the harassment, who like it's not a responsibility. It's the responsibility of each individual person. Only you know what it is that's going to make you feel or understand that you're being harassed. You need to know like the policies or the expectations within your job, but then
Mhm.
you can plan out an exit plan. It don't have to be I'm packing up my box right now and I'm out and having a whole tantrum in a big scene.
Right,
It
right.
could be, I think that I have exhausted my growth at this spot.
Mhm, mhm,
And how many weeks, months do I need to prepare for whatever is next for me? Like if it's look for another
mhm,
job, do you give yourself
mhm,
3 months or 6 months? How do you position yourself of realizing that it's too much harassment happening in this one spot? I am the
mhm,
common denominator, but it's time for me to leave this toxic
mhm,
environment.
mhm.
Or how long can I do below average work and still have a job?
That's blackonomics.com right there.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just do mediocre because mediocre is all you're gonna get because I'm pissed off.
I'm doing just above nothing, just above nothing.
Mhm. I'm gonna
That's
Ain't
come in at
nothing.
9.
Look,
I'm gonna talk to my
look,
coworkers and have my breakfast till 11. I'm gonna do some
right,
work till 12. Then I'm going to lunch till
mm-hmm,
right.
2,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to have some more conversations. And at 3 o'clock, I'm going home.
Oh,
It makes me think about a video of somebody was leaving and the boss said, "Oh no, you can't leave." Like they didn't give him any accommodations or appreciation for the work that they did, but they said that he couldn't leave on the spot. So he gave his 2 weeks notice, and in his cubicle for the 2 weeks, he looked at Netflix all
Mm,
day long,
wow.
read his newspaper, didn't do any additional work because you physically wanted me to be here.
Mm,
That's not really the healthiest response, but sometimes people just want to see you,
mhm,
but not necessarily acknowledge you, if that
mhm.
makes sense.
That makes
right,
a
right.
lot of sense. Yeah.
And we're dealing with that now too, with this whole hybrid. Do we come back in? Was I more productive outside of work? Working
Right,
at home
right,
or
right,
whatever.
right,
Like
right,
we
right.
see that right now where people are like, well, I'm paying for a building, so I need somebody breathing in the building.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
that could. I'm not going to say everything is harassment because that's not, but it could be depending on your situation.
mhm,
It's a misery likes company sometimes. We got to be in the building, so you need to be in the building.
mhm.
You ain't
No
really
thank
got to
you.
be in the building. You running from home.
You know what I'm saying?
You running from that home life.
Mhm.
So we alluded to boundaries a little bit, and I know that that's another show for another time. Is there anything else that we wanted to kind of contribute to this harassment conversation, recognizing people's trauma triggers and like what the next steps are? We said how to acknowledge your feelings
Mhm.
and recognize that those are indicators of letting you know when something is not right for you.
Mhm.
Um, Being able to figure out when those moments are happening, be able to track it, write it down, and then
Mhm.
put a plan in place.
Mhm.
If you're a man, you don't have to put the water cooler up or take Tic Tacs when to let somebody know that you're passing by. Like figure out what the accommodations are.
I would also say working on your anxiety is important because your anxiety sometimes limits your voice
Mm-hmm.
because with anxiety you're always thinking that the future is scary, it's going to be bad, but when you're able to control that, then it's a little bit easier for you to defend yourself or
Mm-hmm.
advocate for yourself, I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have that background noise saying, oh, you're going to get fired if you speak up, or you know they're going to change your position, or whatever those bad things are that you think could possibly happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that sitting at the forefront, you can say, hey, what you said to me did not feel good,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to need you to not speak to me that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think, managing anxiety is one way
Mm-hmm.
to help you find your voice.
And anxiety I always say is the kissing cousin to depression,
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
because
Yes.
when they are kissing each other nice and close, if you sit in your anxiety so long, you begin to manifest those depressive symptoms where you become paralyzed and unable to kind of move forward. So it may
Mm-hmm.
not be full on clinical depression, but it could be a season of you experiencing depression that kind of enables you, to a larger degree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And going down that path of helplessness.
Right,
Well,
right.
so yes, I agree with that.
And so the proper time to go to the EEOC. So that's a slippery slope because it depends on the type of work that you're in. And what I mean by that is some EEOC representatives want to see the evidence of how you've tried to resolve this with the
Mm-hmm.
organization first
Mm-hmm.
before bringing it to them, because there's spoken and unspoken expectations on when they can intervene with certain types of positions.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is even though you may feel the intimidation and the bullying as well as retaliation that may happen in workplaces, you also have to make sure you follow protocol in order
Yes.
to elicit their support to be able to guide you further than what your job is able to go.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Doc was left alone to do it and heard the situation that was shared, sometimes those people who say, "Yeah, I got you," da, 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 you need to get them to write that right then and there. Like,
Mm.
like type that up right when they're in the full moment.
Mm.
Because when time passes by and they have the thought of, "Oh, if I put my name on this, I'm gonna lose my job just like she about to lose her job. I'm not saying nothing. I don't want to be a part of it. You
Mm-hmm.
good. I like you and all. We can still go to the two-step party, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't put my name on that," and you be feeling real abandoned and
Yes.
lost. So yeah, just be mindful of that too. Not to suggest to not follow through, but just to prepare your toolkit on what the exit plan looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yeah, this has been a full conversation for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And did bring some memories back for the both of us. I was like, okay, wait a minute.
Like I forgot about that.
About that.
It did happen.
It did happen. It did. I mean,
Yeah.
especially for the situation down Center City where I was like, go around the block a bit. I think my younger version of myself came out. Well, was about to come out until I came back around the corner and realized that you are fully in management. This ain't gonna look right.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
ready. I was ready.
I've had that situation with one of the women who was
Mhm.
making up all kinds of lies about me, and I was like, all right, let's make one of those come true. I'll meet her
You
outside.
want me to tell you? I can show you how that lie could be the truth.
Yes.
For real. Because you questioning me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
this is thank you so much. This has someone said a beautiful and much needed conversation. That's the purpose of this platform, is to talk
Yes.
about, different things that is impacting us that we end up having a relationship with, be it positive and or adverse, that impacts
Mm-hmm.
our life, on a day-to-day basis. So um we definitely look for, if you have anything that, well, I was leading up to, I got distracted by the fact I saw Ruth commented too. um if you have anything you want us to talk about, just feel free to jump in and send us a message, or share it in a post if you're in the group. And if you're not in the group, I don't know why not.
Mm. Right. Join us.
Join us. We have these lovely conversations all week long with stuff that's going on in the world. So, Doc, you have anything else you want to share, or until next time?
Until next time.
All right. You all have a great week and stay safe and stay well.
Good night.
Good night.